Sarah thought she was being the perfect girlfriend. She'd cancel plans whenever Mark felt lonely, stayed up until 3 a.m. comforting him through work stress, and started lying to her family about why she couldn't visit. She told herself this was love. But when Mark broke up with her anyway, saying he felt suffocated, Sarah realized something terrifying. She had completely lost herself. If that story made your stomach drop, what I'm about to share might completely change how you see your relationships. Carl Jung, one of psychology's most brilliant minds, identified patterns that explain exactly why smart, caring people like Sarah end up trapped in these soul-crushing cycles. And, more importantly, he showed us the way out. Most people experiencing codependency have no idea they're doing it. They think they're just being loving, supportive partners. That's exactly what makes this so dangerous. Jung discovered that codependency isn't about love at all. It's about fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of being alone, fear of not being good enough. And here's the kicker. The very behaviors we think will keep people close are exactly what pushes them away. The first sign Jung would spot immediately is emotional fusion. This is when you can't tell where your feelings end and your partner's begin. Sarah wasn't just supporting Mark through stress. She was absorbing it, making his problems her problems, his pain her pain. Here's how you know if this is happening. When your partner has a bad day, your entire week gets ruined. When they're anxious, you become anxious. Your emotional thermostat is completely controlled by someone else's internal weather. Jung called this psychological contamination, and it's toxic for both people. The codependent person loses their sense of self, while their partner starts feeling like they're dating an emotional sponge instead of an actual person. The second sign is compulsive caretaking. This isn't healthy support. This is when you become addicted to solving other people's problems because it makes you feel valuable, needed, essential. Think about Lisa, who'd sneak into her boyfriend's apartment to clean while he was at work. She'd organize his finances, make his doctor's appointments, even call in sick for him when he was hungover. Lisa thought she was being helpful, but really, she was terrified that if she stopped being useful, he'd realize he didn't need her. Jung understood that this compulsive helping prevents the other person from growing up. It's emotional helicopter parenting. You think you're protecting them, but you're keeping them weak and dependent. And here's the brutal truth. Deep down, that's exactly what you want, because their dependency makes you feel secure. The third sign is identity dissolution. When you gradually give up pieces of yourself to become whatever you think your partner wants. Sarah started lying to her family not just about time, but systematically erasing parts of her identity that didn't fit with what Mark needed. Jung noticed that codependent people become master shapeshifters. They're whoever their partner needs them to be. Cheerful when he needs optimism, serious when she wants depth. But here's the horrifying question. Who are you when nobody else is watching? If you just went blank, you're experiencing what Jung called shadow starvation. You've been so busy being perfect for everyone else that you've forgotten what your authentic self even looks like. The fourth sign might be the most painful: resentment accumulation. All that giving, all that sacrifice builds up hidden rage that eventually explodes. Picture Tom, who spent 3 years being his girlfriend's unpaid therapist and crisis manager. He never complained, never set boundaries. Until one random Tuesday, when she asked him to pick up dry cleaning, and Tom completely lost it. Screaming, throwing things, saying horrible things he'd been swallowing for years. Jung knew, when you give from fear instead of love, when you sacrifice yourself to control others, resentment is inevitable. You start keeping score, even unconsciously. That explosion becomes proof of what you feared all along. You really do drive people away. So you go right back to people-pleasing, starting the cycle over. The fifth sign might be the most devastating: reality distortion. When you become so invested in maintaining the fantasy of your perfect relationship that you ignore obvious red flags. Maria convinced herself that her boyfriend's drinking wasn't that bad. His criticism was just honesty. His controlling behavior was protectiveness. She would literally rewrite reality in her head, turning abuse into love, manipulation into care. Jung understood that codependent people have a psychotic investment in their distorted narrative. They'll defend their toxic partner to everyone, make endless excuses for unacceptable behavior, and gaslight themselves harder than anyone else ever could. But here's what's beautiful about Jung's approach. He gave us the roadmap to freedom. It starts with shadow integration. Jung believed codependency happens when you reject parts of yourself you consider unacceptable. Your anger, your selfishness, your needs, your boundaries. You push these underground, then desperately try to find someone else to carry them. The healing begins when you stop running from your own darkness. Jung would say, embrace your selfishness, own your anger, accept your neediness. These aren't character flaws, they're essential parts of your humanity you've been trying to amputate. Sarah's recovery started when she admitted, I wasn't helping Mark. I was trying to control him. I was terrified he'd leave, so I made myself indispensable. That brutal honesty was her first step toward freedom. Jung's second solution: develop conscious suffering. Instead of avoiding the pain of being alone, of not being needed, of potentially being rejected, learn to sit with those feelings without immediately running to fix them. This means when your partner is upset, you resist the urge to immediately make it better. When they're struggling, you offer support without taking responsibility for their happiness. Jung's third principle is individuation, becoming your own person again. This means rediscovering your interests, opinions, boundaries, dreams. Not the sanitized version you think others want, but the messy, complicated, real you. But here's Jung's most powerful insight. Codependent relationships are elaborate defense mechanisms against intimacy. All that giving, all that sacrifice. It's a way of controlling how others see you, so you never have to risk being truly known. If you're always the giver, the helper, the selfless one, nobody ever gets to see your real needs, real flaws, real fears. You stay safe behind a mask of perfection, but you also stay completely alone. Real intimacy requires what Jung called mutual vulnerability. This means showing up as your actual self and trusting that the right person will love you anyway. It means being willing to disappoint people, to be misunderstood, to be rejected by those who only wanted your convenient compliance. Jung's final solution: learning to love from abundance instead of scarcity. Codependent love says, I need you to be okay so I can be okay. Healthy love says, I'm okay on my own, and I choose to share my life with you. This means developing self-partnership first. You become your own best friend, your own emotional support system. Not because you don't need others, but because you want them rather than need them. Here's your action plan based on Jung's methods. First, pay attention to your motivations. When you help, ask yourself, am I doing this because I genuinely want to, or because I'm afraid of what happens if I don't? Second, practice active imagination with your fears. Instead of running from the terror of being alone or rejected, sit with it. Imagine the worst-case scenario happening and surviving it. Jung believed that facing our deepest fears robs them of their power. Third, start small acts of rebellion against people-pleasing. Say no to something minor. Express a different opinion. Ask for what you need instead of hoping someone will figure it out. Remember Jung's ultimate insight. You can't love someone you need to control, and you can't be loved by someone who needs to control you. Real love requires to hold people choosing each other freely, not to have people clinging together in desperate fear. The path Jung outlined isn't easy. You'll lose some relationships along the way. Some people only wanted the compliant, shape-shifting version of you. But here is what you gain, the possibility of being truly known and loved for who you actually are. Sarah's story has a beautiful ending. After shadow work and individuation, she met David. When David got stressed, Sarah offered to listen but didn't absorb his anxiety. When David wanted space, Sarah went out with friends instead of sitting home worrying. And when David appreciated her for exactly who she was, imperfections and all, Sarah finally understood what love actually feels like. Your codependent patterns aren't character flaws. They're survival strategies that once protected you, but now imprison you. Jung showed us that the same psychological forces that create these patterns can be redirected toward genuine intimacy and authentic self-expression. The question isn't whether you can change. Jung proved transformation is always possible. The question is whether you're ready to stop settling for the illusion of love and start demanding the real thing. Because you deserve to be loved for who you are, not who you pretend to be. The person who will love you best is waiting on the other side of your authenticity. But first, you have to become brave enough to let them meet the real you.